Here, another week, Get Made podcast. So we're gonna jump right into it. So, kids, we were kids once, all of us. We can remember them days. Kids are horrible, right? You love them to death, but they're horrible. What I mean by that is that they say some of the damnedest things and really don't understand that they hurting feelings, right? So they get in trouble, they say something, and next thing you know, somebody going around. I mean, kids can be downright out mean, right? What they say to each other. They can, some of them purposeful, some of them know now, but purposefully they can be mean. But what I'm really talking about is children don't really have an understanding of filters. And why am I talking about kids when this is the Get Made podcast? Because a lot of times we walk around acting like kids because we don't have filters. And I'm talking to my brothers today. Obviously, I'm always talking to brothers, but really, I'm talking to everyone because we say some of the damnedest things to each other without realizing the consequences. You know, they used to say back in the day, sticks and stones may break my bones, right? That whole little thing, but words I never heard. That was somebody told you a lie. All right, that was a lie. Words hurt. You know, sometimes words have more damage than some physical things. Being honest with you, because you may heal physically, but you carry those words. Some people walking around right now, something said to them when they was like 8 years old. Something a parent said, or a sibling said, or you too dark, or you got big lips, or you got big eyes, or something wrong with you. You too pale, or whatever it was. And we walk around with those those thoughts even today. Something that somebody said to us when we were kids, right? So I want to talk about how to go about developing filters. Because, it's a saying that gentleness beautifies a situation where harshness corrupts it. Right? And it's not always, honesty doesn't have to have brutality to it. Now, whoever came up with that oxymoron was crazy. That is, I'm just going to be brutally honest. No, that's just you trying to get off on somebody by telling them whatever it is, and you want to excuse it by putting honesty to it. That's what you're really doing, right? And sometimes as men, as women, as husbands and wives, or as friends, or as siblings, or whatever it is, we try to use that jacked up excuse to really say what we don't say, and I'm just keeping it real, I'm just keeping it 100, I'm just being authentic, I got to be true to myself, and all that old foolishness, right? Where it's really your responsibility to give another person a good experience. That's what we weren't taught when we were kids. It's our responsibility to give another person a good experience. People should be able to leave us with a good feeling, a good thought, and just a overall good experience. And sometimes we actually do that haphazardly. We don't do that purposefully, right? So I want to talk today how we can be more purposeful in life with this. And there's three things. I had the privilege of some of my clients when they, actually I had a client last week, to be more exact. I had a client last week was telling me how he was using the tools that I had given him in dealing with something with his wife, right? And because his wife was she got the same tools, but she wasn't quite using them, right? So he said it wasn't for him to make the excuse to fall into that rabbit hole with her when he knows better. And that's something that he had become accustomed to doing. He'd jump in that rabbit hole right with her. He'd jump right in there, and where how low she go, he try to go as low as she go. And sometimes, bro, it really don't work, right? Sometimes because, be honest with you, a lot of times we as men, when it comes to words, we actually have a little bit more sensitive feelings to some words than even women do. They're hiding it probably a little bit. It might affect them, but they hide a little bit more because they've been used to the cattiness and all this old type of stuff here, right? And I'm not stereotyping or generalizing. I'm just making a statement, okay? But for men, we don't really kind of get caught in that. It's a little bit more. You're gonna watch what you say to a person because you don't want the outcomes. You know consequences going to come behind something if you talking reckless to another man, right? You just can't do it, right? So I want to give us a couple of three things. I want us to walk away with three things, and which these three things, if one of them is missing, then you can't continue on what it is that you're getting ready to do or say, right? So I want us to remember this. I want us to jump into this real quick. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? This is going to be a filter that we're going to start working with. We're talking about filters, right? Because a lot of us don't have them. I'm just going to be 100 with you. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to be brutal. I'm just going to speak the truth. A lot of times we just don't walk around and we don't enact filters. We don't. I sit there and watch a couple talking the other day. I just let them talk because I want to see how they interact with each other. And they were trying to call themselves being on their best behavior. It was deplorable. It was, oh my God, it was bad. And I really told them, at some point, I just told them I had to stop them. And I said, you know what? And y'all really probably believe y'all was on your best behavior. I know that this probably gets a whole lot worse at home, outside of the sight of somebody, a third party or something. When you're at home or you're in front of your kids or whatever, this thing gets worse. I know it gets worse. And they agreed. Right? They agreed. And they were really trying to be on their best behavior. And it was bad. It was bad. I'm telling you, it was bad. Right? And so a lot of times, and this is one of the things I want to, on a higher level of what it is that I'm talking about as far as filters, we actually talk about communication. And a lot of times people come in and talk about, oh, we don't know how to communicate. We got bad communication. We don't communicate well. We don't communicate well. I mean, you are communicating, but you're just doing some bad communication. Slamming doors is communication. You're telling me something when you go slamming that door. Right? Yelling at me, cursing at me, you telling me something. Right? You communicate and I'm listening because I'm going to respond to it. And in many instances, I'm just reacting to it. I want us to understand that. There's a response and there's a react. And a lot of times when we talk to each other, only thing we're doing is getting reactions from that person. That's all we're really doing. They're reacting to whatever it is I just said or whatever it is you just said. There's a reaction come. And then so when people start getting into this secular conversation, that's all they're doing is really just reacting. They're not responding to nothing. And many times they have probably 2 or 3 different conversations going on at the same time. I want to get my point. You want to get your point. I want to get my point. You want to get your point. And we ain't talking about the same thing. But we think we talk about the same thing, but we're not talking about the same thing. And so, but I want to stay close to topic with this one because that's another issue that I may want to discuss at another time. We're talking about filters. We're talking about the filter. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? So first, let's look at true. Is it true? Whatever we're getting ready to say out our mouth, is there evidence for it? Is this not just something you done made up or you done conjured up? Or you trying to put dots together and then this is what your estimate looks like or this is what you have came up with or whatever? Is there real facts here? Is it something that's observable? Right? Is this true? Right? It's not your truth that we're talking about. We're talking about something that's observable. Unless you are then going to say, well, this is how a situation made me feel. Then you are taking accountability for yourself, because you actually excuse a person when you say, hey, this is how that made me feel. When you did this right here, this is why that made me feel. Well, then they can come back and say to you, well, I wasn't trying to make you feel that way. And that wasn't my intentions in the situation, because I actually had a whole different intent when I said this or when I did that. Right. So, let's try to see if we can work that out, because that really wasn't where I was coming from with that. Right. And there should really be some acceptance to that. Because why are you going to stay in a space about something that really wasn't what was taking place? That then becomes a you issue, not the issue. It becomes a you issue, right? So, is it true? Is it something observable? Is it something factual about what's taking place? I don't have to guess about it. I don't have to really just, if you drop something on my foot, that's a factual situation. You dropped it. I ain't gonna say you dropped it on purpose, or you intentionally threw it down there to hit my foot or whatever. Only thing I know is it came out of your hand and hit my foot. That's observable. That's factual, right? Is it kind? This is where we get back to that thing of our childlike behavior, because sometimes we don't say things that are kind. We just want to blurt out our mouth whatever it is, what comes up, come out. It's how I'm feeling. It's this and it's that. Well, because you feel in a particular way does not give you the right to give somebody else that bad feeling. Now I understand at this point, hurting people at this point, because that's all you do. But you still have to be accountable for it, right? A person should neither harm nor reciprocate harm. There should be a rule. I'm not seeking to be harmed, nor am I seeking to do harm. Right? So if we look at that, then how do we enact kindness? One, we have to really take our time and be slow about what it is that you are getting ready to say. Right? Even watching your nonverbals. Sometimes we have to pay attention to our nonverbals. I get told all the time, I'm sure y'all something. I always skinch my forehead up like this, right? I always talk. I've got to talk. My family just get every time you turn around. I can be concentrating, and it looks like sometimes I'm looking mean, right? And they say, "Man, yeah, so get your forehead right, right?" That's a nonverbal. Now they taking the nonverbal wrong, but sometimes I just be concentrating. I really be trying to pay attention to what I'm really trying to give it my focus. Right? But nevertheless, that happens, right? And so I ain't trying to me mug nobody, but sometimes that happens, right? But even in how that's being said to me, there should be some kindness to that. Now, I'm not saying that nobody is not kind to me. I'm just using that as an example, right? So, is it kind? Is there words that would not give somebody a bad experience or a bad feeling, or that would make them feel inferior, make them feel any type of way other than having some integrity, leaving them with integrity and dignity, right? Y'all don't hear these words often. I know we get away from real value words, but we want to be high value, but we don't use value words. We don't think things that have value, right? We don't use words of values, right? And integrity and dignity is two things that we should always leave somebody with, right? And how do you do that? You have to be kind. Again, we're going to go back to this overhead of gentleness beautifies the situation where harshness corrupts it, right? And last but not least, this is the kicker. This is really gonna love. You're gonna love this one. I'm telling y'all gonna love this. We'll have a drum roll for it, but I don't want to hit this table, right? But is it necessary? Is what I'm about to say right now? Is it necessary for me to say right now? Can I really take my time? And could I find another time to be able to do this? As men, I know that timing and delivery is as a man, that's very important to me. That is very important to me, right? The time you tell me something and the way you give it to me is very important to me, right? And that's going to be some of that really might be how I actually even respond to a situation. If your timing and delivery is right by me, I actually may just give over to it because what you took the time to understand and you delivered it in a way that was going to be proper for me to receive it. If you put that much notion into a situation, 8 out of 10, I'm gonna say 9 out of 10, I'll be lying, but 8 out of 10, I'll probably just give you your way. As a man, I probably just okay, that's what's up, no problem. I don't do that. Okay, that's what's up. You know, and so I'm saying if you find out is it necessary, you take the time to figure is it necessary for me to say this right now? Is it necessary for me to do this right now? Is this necessary? Is this conversation even necessary to have right now? Because I probably don't even want to do it to me, let alone what I want to do to you. Right? I just don't really feel like going through all that right now. Right? If we can then start understanding filters, people, it's going to be we get better results. I tell people a lot of times, as 80% of your problems can be remedied in a dispute or a disagreement. If one, we understand the value that's being violated, and two, we understand the unmet need. We get an understanding of the unmet need. That other 20%, which is huge now, don't get it wrong, this is huge, would be the filters that we use in order to get those two things right. It's the filters that we use. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? There's what I'm about to say. My response to this situation, not your reaction, because more than likely your reaction is going to be wrong anyway. We should never be reacting, really. And that's something we just have to learn how to do. Brothers, we have to learn how to do that. A lot of times we just have the sisters. I'm not even talking to sisters. We have to learn how to do that. We have to learn how to respond to situations versus reacting to them, right? But if we get to a point of saying, is what I'm about to say is true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? That automatically incorporate the pause before you say, because a lot of times we just respond too quick. We react too quick. We say something too quick. If somebody say this, then I'm hurrying. I'm gonna say this right back. Instead of taking your time and being a little bit more, I want y'all to hear this word now, methodical. Right? Because that's what we're talking about. How to be a little bit more methodical. And if we can do that, if we can take that opportunity just to be a tad more methodical, and then enacting the filters, taking our time to is it true? Okay, I'm running through this thing. Then why are you taking so long? Hey, let me process what it is that you just said. Okay, give me a moment. Let me process that. Right, because you said some stuff that I got to think through. You can take your time. You don't have to respond to if ain't nobody got to go to the hospital. If ain't nobody dying or anything, and you ain't getting put out of your place, you ain't got nothing. Unless the water break in the house or whatever, you got time to respond. You can take your time to respond to the situation. I'm not saying you avoid it. I'm not saying that. That's a different thing. I'm not talking about avoidance. What I'm talking about is taking your time to respond with a true and accurate response. Even if you have to get clarity about something, that response, you going through it, and then you might realize, I don't know, is she saying this or is she saying this or that? Okay, because in my mind, that actually can go two ways. So then here comes a response. hey, look, I heard what you just said. Now I can take that a couple of different ways. So let me tell you the two ways that a couple of ways I can take it, and you help me out. Could it could I take that A, or could I take that B? Right, whatever A is or whatever B might be. Now she might even come back, or they might be come back and say, really, it should be C. You ain't even thought about C, right? Because you stuck at A and B, and they could be saying something totally different. What happens? You took the time to respond to it properly. You just didn't act out and then get your feelings involved. The filters allow you also not to get the feelings involved, right? You can manage your feelings at that point. I'm telling you, you have a whole you have a whole different conversation. And you can have a conversation, you can even be kind to yourself. This is what I really want, because a lot of times, a lot of us got a lot of bad talk going on up here. You know, it's not some of that stuff that we tell ourselves, it don't be true, it don't be kind, and it damn sure ain't necessary. It really ain't. It's damn sure not necessary. But we get caught in our own head, and we telling ourselves this, and then we thinking this, and we thinking that, and you know, all that old history that something somebody told you when you was 5 to come back, and you know, you've been called this nickname all your life, and it came from a bad space, and you didn't really like it, and then you took it in the heart, and you all that. At that point, you talking to yourself. Really, you talking to yourself. You're not being true about a situation, and you damn sure not being kind, and it's certainly not necessary. So I ain't even talking about the filters that you have to do with one another. I'm talking about the filters even for yourself, right? It's the filters that you even have for yourself. And as men, you know, a lot of times they think this thing is really about what women do, but a lot of times we do this to ourselves as well, probably even more so. But we hide it, hold it in. We deal with it on such, you know, negative terms with ourselves, and we're not responding to anything correctly. We and it turns into stress. That thing turns into stress, and then that stress start killing you. We start getting high blood pressure issues, and we tipping over. We falling. We jumping in the grave because it's killing us. The stress is killing us. We start being weighted down. I am saying, if you start this process and start working this process, and if you want to come in, you need some help with it, and I definitely can be in a position of helping you coach you through it, counsel you through that, as you can make it. I mean, I even have a whole program for it, to be honest with you, on how to work the filters for you. How you can get this thing done for you, how you can talk to you better, men and women, really. I mean, I work at this the main thing with men and women. I'm definitely talking to men right now, because a lot of times we don't seek the help. There's a whole major industry out there in this self-help, self-improvement joint out here that's being capitalized by women, right? Because a lot of men, we don't want to be vulnerable enough to let somebody know that we have these challenges. I don't even call them weaknesses, that we have these challenges. And somewhere along the line, we're not strong. You know, I heard a lady by the name of Brene Brown talking one time on a video that a guy came to her. She was selling books. They was talking about vulnerability, right? We want to talk about this vulnerability. And brothers, I know you probably can identify this, the way this man said this to her, right? And this is what I'm saying. We need to work, because he bought the book, and he bought the books for his wife and his daughters. Had a couple of daughters and his wife. And he said, you know, you're not addressing anything for men, right? And vulnerability. Because, you know, even though y'all talk like this, those three right there would rather see me die on the sword before I fall off my horse. And I want y'all to hear that. They were, and this is some of the things, women, I want y'all to understand that this is some of the challenges that some men go through. They feel like you would rather see you would rather see him die on a sword than fall off his horse. He's not allowed to fall off that horse. And as men, we walk with that. So I'm saying, as a man, I understand, but we can't allow them to kill us like that, bro. We can't allow that thinking to kill us. And we have to be able to do something to do better. This podcast is really to help us do that. I'm just one person out here in a sphere of other men who are trying to bring this attention to us as men, right? But we got to get this help. Brothers, gentlemen, we have to get this help. And we have to be in a position of learning how to be vulnerable. That way we can make some changes in how we filter the words we say and the things we do. Because right now, we have no filters. So, thank y'all for tuning in this week. As always, I appreciate you. And of course, you catch me streaming on with this on YouTube at the Get Made Podcast on YouTube. Please subscribe. Also, share this with some other people, right? Share it. You know, we say this every week. Share it. And I'm probably going to say it for the rest of them. Even if I got 1 million people, I want you to share it with another million, right? If there's 1 million men, million brothers and sisters watching this, then we need to make that 2 million, right? We just need to get this information out, right? So share, and we're going to see you guys next week, all right?